While any manufacturer can make a mistake and learn from it, some seem determined to repeat the same blunders year after year. That's right, there are engines still in production that are more notorious than notable. From excessive oil consumption to complete failures that strike just after a few thousand miles, these engines have earned a place on our list of the most problematic engines. So, sit back and get ready, because we're about to expose 5 engines that might just make you rethink your next vehicle purchase. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on more eye-opening insights into the automotive industry. Number 1. 2.4-liter and 2.0-liter Hyundai Theta 2 engine. The Hyundai Theta 2 engines, particularly the 2.4-liter and 2.0-liter GDI variants, are second-generation Theta engines introduced around 2009, which were expected to represent a significant advancement for Hyundai. These inline-4 engines promised improved fuel efficiency, increased power, and cutting-edge technology, with features like gasoline direct injection and variable valve timing. However, things soon took a turn for the worse. These engines, found in models like the Hyundai Sonata, Kia Optima, Sportage, and Tucson, became the focus of class-action lawsuits, recalls, and widespread complaints from frustrated owners. First, there's the infamous crankshaft design flaw. Metal debris left behind during manufacturing often clogs the oil passages, leading to premature bearing wear. This leads to engine knocking, and we're not talking about some polite little rattle. No, this is the kind of knocking that will make you think there's a gremlin with a hammer inside your engine. This wear eventually results in catastrophic engine failure. To make matters worse, these engines used GDI, gasoline direct injection technology, which was intended to improve efficiency by injecting fuel directly into the combustion chamber. However, this innovation brought its own problem: carbon buildup. The real kicker, though, is the fire hazard. When your engine doesn't seize up, it has the audacity to catch fire. The engine has a tendency to overheat, and there are multiple reports of spontaneous engine fires. Then came the recalls. Campaign 132, then Campaign 162. And for those who thought it was over, Campaign 953 and the introduction of the Knock Sensor Detection System, KSDS, aka limp mode. There was even Campaign T3G, where they rewired the knock detection system because it was falsely triggering. Meanwhile, customers were stuck with frustrating delays and sketchy engine replacements. Some even accused Hyundai of warranty fraud because burning oil wasn't always covered. But wait a few more miles, and that burning oil became a rod-bearing issue that was covered. Some owners reported their engines dying in as little as 20,000 miles, while others limped along until they were within spitting distance of 100,000 miles before completely giving up the ghost. These engines became so notorious that Hyundai and Kia owners who had their engines seize, catch fire, or blow up unexpectedly were granted engine replacements, compensation for lost time, and rental cars through a class-action settlement covering 2011 to 2019 models. Not before some owners were left stranded on highways or watching their cars go up in flames in parking lots. The lawsuits were a mess. While Hyundai claims the newer engines, like the 29 Plus models, are fixed, owners are skeptical given their track record, and many believe these ticking time bombs could still be lurking under the hood, just waiting to cause more chaos. Number 2. Fiat Chrysler 2.4-liter Tigershark Multi-Air. The Fiat Chrysler 2.4-liter Tigershark Multi-Air 2 engine. Introduced in 2013, it was intended to be a significant improvement over its predecessor, the World gasoline engine, which was often criticized for its lackluster performance. The Tigershark featured advanced technology, such as the Multi-Air 2 hydraulic valve control system, designed to enhance timing precision and fuel efficiency. While these innovations appeared promising on paper, Tigershark ultimately gained recognition for its shortcomings rather than its successes. It's a naturally aspirated inline 4-cylinder with dual overhead cams and variable valve timing, which gives the impression of robust performance. It's found under the hoods of Jeep Cherokees, Renegades, and Compasses, along with Fiat 500X, Toro, and even the Ram ProMaster City. But despite its presence in these popular vehicles, this engine has a notorious appetite for oil. Owners have reported their engines guzzling oil at an alarming rate. And it doesn't stop there. This thing leaks coolant like it's trying to win an award. The problem? The head doesn't seal properly to the engine block, leading to coolant drips, endless frustration, and pricey repairs that require specialty tools. And don't even get me started on the multi-air system itself. It relies on pristine, high-quality oil to function properly. It is highly sensitive to oil quality, and once the oil becomes contaminated, the system clogs and malfunctions. And guess what? Fixing this mess isn't cheap and requires tearing apart the engine piece by piece. The piston rings also fail to seal effectively, resulting in excessive oil consumption. This issue has been significant enough to prompt class action lawsuits. The Fiat Chrysler 2.4-liter Tigershark multi-air engine has been at the center of significant recalls and legal actions due to widespread issues with excessive oil consumption and stalling. In 2020, FCA issued a recall for over 1 million vehicles, including models like the Jeep Cherokee, Jeep Renegade, and Dodge Dart, after numerous complaints that the engine burned through oil at an alarming rate, leading to potential engine stalling without warning. The recall aimed to update the engine's software to notify drivers of low oil levels, but many argued this was only a temporary fix. The excessive oil consumption problem led to several class action lawsuits, with plaintiffs claiming that FCA failed to disclose the engine's defects and did not provide adequate repairs, leaving owners to face expensive repairs or engine replacements. While FCA has attempted to address some of these issues, the Tigershark continues to be produced today, still leaving drivers on high alert for that moment when the oil light comes on. Number 3. Nissan QR25DE. The Nissan QR25DE, a 2.5-liter inline-4 engine that's been around since 2001, replacing KA24DE. This engine is like that friend who's always almost reliable, but somehow always messes things up. It powers a range of Nissans like the Altima, Sentra, and Rogue, and boy, has it given those owners a wild ride over the years. Part of Nissan's QR family, it shares its DNA with other QR engines, though none of them seem to suffer from the specific quirks of this one. Under the hood, the QR25DE boasts dual overhead cams, variable valve timing, and port fuel injection. One of the notable aspects of this engine is its balancing system, which was designed to reduce vibrations typical of four-cylinder engines. However, this system has been criticized for adding complexity without significantly improving refinement. The big innovation of this engine, though, was putting the pre-catalytic converter right next to the engine, which should help with emissions, but instead turns the engine into its own worst enemy. Let's talk about why this engine has earned its spot on our worst engines list. First, that infamous pre-cat design causes pieces of the catalytic converter to break apart and get sucked back into the engine via reversion. Yes, folks, this engine is actively inhaling its own exhaust parts. The result? Scored cylinder walls, excessive oil consumption, and eventually, you guessed it, total engine failure. The timing chain is another joy. It stretches over time, causing rough idling, and if it skips teeth, well, you're now the proud owner of a bent valve interference engine. To add insult to injury, there are the good old valve cover oil leaks and intake manifold screw problems. Those loose screws could actually fall into the engine. And we haven't even talked about how the QR25DE loves to vibrate. Nissan was hit with multiple class action suits from owners whose engines failed due to the pre-cat issue. Many of these engines didn't even make it to 100,000 miles before they were knocking, smoking, or simply refusing to start. Especially if you live in a cold climate, good luck getting this thing to start on a chilly morning. Nissan tried to fix the pre-cat issue, issuing service bulletins and even a recall to inspect and replace the catalytic converters and update the engine control software. But many owners faced expensive repairs or replacements before the recall was fully implemented. In later models, some improvements were made, like moving the balancing system and updating pistons, but this engine still loves its quirks. Nissan claims the problems are resolved, but the QR25DE remains a love-hate affair for many owners, leaning heavily on the hate side. For now, it seems this engine continues to limp along in newer Nissans, proving that even with 20 years of updates, some engines just refuse to learn their lesson. As we continue exploring this list of notorious engines, don't forget to subscribe. Over 90% of our viewers aren't subscribed, and your support makes a big difference. Number 4. Ford 1.0-liter Ecoboost. The Ford 1.0-liter Ecoboost, or as many affectionately call it, the Ecoboom. This little engine, born in 2012, came out swinging, winning awards left, right, and center. It was hailed as a marvel of engineering, best engine under 1.0 liter 6 years in a row, no less. a tiny three-cylinder turbocharged wonder that made everyone say, "Wow, Ford did it." That is, until the miles started piling on. Then people realized that beneath all that praise, the engine was really just a ticking time bomb wrapped in a turbo. Now, this little guy is part of the Ecoboost family, known for its turbocharged and downsized engines. Ford crammed in some cool tech, like a wet timing belt that runs through oil instead of using a traditional dry belt or expensive chain system. In theory, this should have been a genius move, meant to last 155,000 miles or 10 years. But here's where things start to go sideways. The wet belt breaks down, disintegrating into little bits that clog up the oil pickup, starving the engine of lubrication. Cue catastrophic failure. It's so common that if you ask a Ford EcoBoost owner, "Did your engine fail?" they'll probably give you a specific date. It's not just the belt causing problems. The tensioner also has issues, leading to a loss of oil pressure, which frequently results in engine failure. Early models further compounded these issues with significant cooling problems, causing the engine to overheat and leaving drivers stranded with overheating Fords. As for acceleration, the EcoBoost's response is complained to be sluggish, delivering far less performance than expected when pressing the accelerator. And while this engine was marketed as fuel efficient, owners frequently complained it couldn't even deliver decent mileage. Real kicker is the cost of fixing these problems. Replacing that wet belt is a wallet killer because of how tightly the engine is packed under the hood. It's the kind of repair that makes you wonder if buying a new car wouldn't be easier. If you're lucky, this engine will start causing major problems around 60,000 miles, but many drivers have reported failures far earlier. Ford did issue recalls and technical service bulletins for this engine. However, the recall came after numerous customer complaints and instances of engine damage, sparking frustration among owners who experienced failures before the recall was implemented. Ford's handling of the problem, which included technical service bulletins in addition to the recall, was part of broader legal action as owners sought compensation for engine repairs or replacements. The later models supposedly fixed many of these issues, but some unlucky EcoSport drivers are still dealing with the original, unchanged version. Number 5. Hyundai and Kia 2.0-liter NU engine. The Hyundai and Kia 2.0-liter NU engine. If you thought you had déjà vu after the Theta 2 engine debacle, you're not alone. Introduced in 2011 as a replacement for the Beta engine series, this four-cylinder, dual-overhead cam beauty was meant to keep things simple. It came in two flavors, the MPI, multi-port injection, for those who like their fuel injection old school, and the GDI, gasoline direct injection, for the modern thrill seekers. On paper, it seemed solid, efficient, compact, and ready to power everything from the Hyundai Elantra to the Kia Soul. But as time has shown, this new engine quickly became anything but new and exciting, especially once the miles racked up. The GDI variant is particularly known for causing significant oil dilution. Fuel mixing with the engine oil disrupts the lubrication system, leading to issues such as scuffed cylinders, knocking rods, and excessive oil consumption. This problem has been a source of frustration for many owners, as the engine begins to consume oil at an abnormal rate. This engine's issues didn't go unnoticed. Hyundai and Kia tried to manage the fallout by issuing recalls and technical service bulletins. The recall aimed to address the engine's manufacturing defects and prevent engine failures by inspecting the engines for wear and replacing faulty components where necessary. However, many owners have complained that the recall feels more like a Band-Aid than a true fix, with some vehicles failing even after receiving the so-called repair. To top it all off, multiple class action lawsuits have been filed against Hyundai and Kia, accusing them of knowingly selling vehicles with defective engines. While Hyundai and Kia have introduced improvements and additional recalls in later years, some drivers are still reporting engine failures, albeit at a lower rate. For now, it seems like the new engine's oil-guzzling, metal debris-loving tendencies are still leaving their mark, and owners are left wondering if their engine will be next to join the growing list of failures. If you've made it this far, be sure not to leave without subscribing.